Welcome back to Graceful Aging. I'm your host, Gregory Bator. Happy holidays. You know, the holidays for most of us are a time filled with joy and merriment and happiness. And that's wonderful, isn't it? But for a lot of people, older adults especially, this time can also be filled with a lot of stress and pain and angst and a variety of things that are attributable to their physical health, their mental health, their financial health, pressures and stresses that sometimes family members just don't see. Well, I've asked today two professional people to come on the show. One is Janice Roble, who is a geriatric social worker, and the other is Diane Hischke, a professional geriatric care manager. These ladies have a bountiful amount of experience in dealing with the specific issues relating to seniors. So stick with us and join us on today's show entitled Holidaze, the Challenges and the Joys. Well, I'm so glad you're with us today on Graceful Aging. I'm really looking forward to this show about the holidays. And we have two lovely and talented and experienced women here today, Diane Hischke and Janice Roble. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. I asked you before we started the show, what are the most frequent phone calls that you get at this time of year?
I think probably what the kinds of calls we get most often are related to concerns about mom or dad being depressed or isolated, the blues being more difficult than what the son or daughter remember there being.
Are those calls coming from the sons and daughters, or are they coming from the seniors themselves?
Yeah, they're almost predominantly from the family members. The older adult tends to want to put on a good face and not be a burden to their family members or not put a dent in the festivities. So they try to keep those depressed feelings to themselves.
And Janice, you were mentioning as well that at this time, with the company that you work at that deals also with health-related issues, seniors aren't going to have surgery between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But is there stress related to that? Are they worrying about that surgery, and what are they doing about that?
Typically, most people who need an elective surgery, like knee surgery or hip surgery, they're not going to do it during the holiday season. They want to be available to be with their family during the holiday season. But what we do see is we see patients that are depressed, lonely, have a lot of anxiety. They're so stressed about seeing family they haven't seen in a long time, trying to participate in activities that they're really not feeling well enough to participate in. We see a lot of depression related to the loss of maybe a loved one, not being able to participate in a family gathering the way they used to years ago. So we see a lot of the depression and anxiety, more so this time of year.
And how good are seniors at masking those feelings that they're having or those anxieties? Do you see when you say go into their house and talk with them that there's a pretty good disguise that they place, or do they open up to you? How is that?
It depends. They often do try to put on a good face, and particularly for family members. But if you can, talk with them, one-on-one and privately, and kind of let them know that it's okay for them to tell you that they are feeling kind of sad or down, even now at the holidays. I think that they are eager to talk about it and to have someone to talk with about it.
But it's kind of easier for you. You're a third party, and so they have no relationship with you.
That's right.
If you're a family member, I would imagine that they don't want to tell their son or daughter that they're feeling blue because they don't want to make the son or daughter feel bad. They'd be a burden, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, like you said, they don't want to put a dent on the festivities. So many times seniors put on a good face, and they just say that they'll say, I wish I could participate, but I can't today, or I'm just not feeling up to it, when they don't really tell them how difficult it is, how hard it is. I'm celebrating this holiday without the spouse that they had, or that they're feeling very ill, or they're having new symptoms on a diagnosis, because they just want to put on a good face, not be a burden.
Well, how does a family kind of cut through that disguise? What are you looking for, and what can you do to, say, find out the true feelings of a senior at that time if you're a family member?
I always suggest to our families that they try to put themselves in the shoes of their mom or dad. If there have been losses over the year, or there's been significant health changes, then it's pretty easy to suspect that maybe they are feeling sad about those things, or worried about those things.
I'm over that. We don't have to talk about that, dear.
Yeah.
You get.
Yes, yeah, certainly. They will sometimes not want to talk about it.
We don't have to. Let's talk about happier things. How do you deal with that if you're the family member?
I don't think you have to talk about it at length if the mom or dad doesn't seem to be comfortable for whatever reason talking about it. But just making a simple statement like, Mom, I know it's been a hard year, and I can understand if maybe, all of these festivities, are kind of hard for you. Mm-hmm. Just a simple statement like that will be enough that if the senior, wants to talk more about it, you've opened the door for it. If they don't want to, then you're not going to impose upon them or pressure them to talk when they don't really feel like it.
Because I can imagine other family members experience the loss of their mother as well as the husband experiences the loss of the spouse. So they're both experiencing some loss, but is avoidance a good strategy completely? I mean, do you just eliminate any discussions so that you don't kind of raise those feelings?
Then it becomes like the white elephant in the room.
Right.
Everyone knows it, but no one wants to talk about it. One of the things I would suggest, some people will go through photo albums at the holiday time, and you can remember what were previous holidays, not as a way to feel bad, but to say, hey, we're remembering this person during the holiday time. We're keeping them a part of this tradition, even though they're not here, that we're remembering them. And especially for a parent or grandparent to say, we haven't forgotten about the person that you've loved so much. We're going to review these photo albums. And for a lot of seniors, that really makes them feel good to know that no one has forgot about the person that they've loved so much.
Well, that's a good point. Diane, there's a lot of times family members want to take mom or dad or an aunt to their cousin's house or to the VFW hall or wherever the Christmas party is, thinking that that's going to bring cheer to the senior's life and world. Does it bring cheer and life to the senior's world, or does it evoke some other?
Yeah, it may not. If they're worried about being in this strange setting with a lot of strange people, and that certainly is a possibility. Again, if you try to see these events through your mom or dad's eyes, then it may help you to understand, how they may be feeling. If you really would like for them to be part of an event, plan ahead. Think about all the different things that might impact upon their enjoying those hours. Such as just being able to get around the room easily, that the pathways are wide enough that they can use their walker to and walk through the room or the restaurant independently.
Oh, but those people haven't seen me use a walker, and I'd be too embarrassed to walk in there with a walker. I don't need my walker.
Yeah.
Do you?
Well, maybe you can figure out another way so that they don't have to use the walker, but that they still have the support that they need to have. I've certainly, been in a setting where I've seen a nephew on either side, of their elderly aunt, or grandsons on either side of their grandmother helping her walk in so that she doesn't have to use that walker or wheelchair.
So the teenagers have to go to this party too? But sometimes I would think involving the other family members, even younger ones, all those lessons they learn in school, this would be a perfect time for them to apply it too. Mm-hmm. As far as a lot of these functions too, Janice, have meals associated with them. And does a senior and does a family have to be concerned in terms of the meal that might be provided at somebody else's house or at some hall?
Some of the things you can do, as you said, to plan ahead. One, if somebody is diabetic, let's say, you want to know what they're going to be serving. Also, you can let the senior that's going, let them know what they're going to be having so they know ahead of time. You want to make sure that there's enough room at the table for them. If they have a wheelchair, to make sure that's accessible for them. If there's people with visual impairments, you want to let them know, have a family member assigned to get their food for them, let them know where it is on their plate. You've got the chicken at 9 o'clock, you've got the green beans at 3 o'clock, so that they know what they're eating at that point. Medications are a huge thing. If they're having a meal, you have to know, are they supposed to get it before, are they supposed to get it after? Even planning before they get there to the meal, knowing with their driving situation, can they get in and out of a car? Are they going to need help walking down the steps with their walker? Do you need to carry their walker? Do you need to help them into the house? There's so many things.
Yeah, interesting. I mentioned to you before that I was at a holiday event, a concert this last weekend, and when I was exiting, there was a lady with a walker who was going out, and the car dutifully pulled up to the cutaway part of the sidewalk, but she had the car back up so that she could access the car from the higher level curb with her walker, and that was an interesting accommodation that she insisted upon. Well, another thought though is that what if a senior doesn't want to go? How do you balance trying to bring joy and merriment of the holidays with maybe their stubbornness or their shyness or embarrassment or whatever it is that says, no, I'm just fine, you go and you have a good time? What's the balance there? And how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I think it's talking about it. Not just assuming that they have to go to this, concert on this evening. Maybe, there are other things that they'd rather do. Many seniors enjoy religious services, or they enjoy going for a ride and seeing the lights, or being with a small group of 3 or 4 instead of 24. So remember, they have preferences, and you should be talking with them and finding out, what if anything, would they be interested in doing?
Those are good points. I think you're planning ahead concept too, because I could see maybe the length of time of a concert, shorten it up and only go for 1 hour, no problem, or maybe where they sit at the VFW hall in relation to the bathroom, because continence problems or issues relating to that. Well, those are great suggestions. So, moral of the story: you can bring joy and merriment to a senior's holiday, but you have to plan ahead.
And do it on their terms too.
Okay, beautiful. Well, let's do it on these terms for a moment. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. We're here with a graceful aging moment. I've asked Diane Hischke to stick with us and answer a very important question that you may have. So here's the question for you, Diane. The question is, what is a professional geriatric care manager? I know our viewers are hearing that term maybe for the first time. Would you please tell our viewers what is a professional geriatric care manager?
A geriatric care manager is typically a nurse or a social worker with a passion and compassion for working with older adults and their families. Most of us have had a personal experience with an elderly loved one, which caused us to turn our work in this direction. In my case, my 68-year-old mother was in the mid-stages of Alzheimer's disease when I became her primary caregiver. At that point in time, she needed help with every activity of daily living except for walking and feeding herself. My circumstance at the time was that I had 5-year-old twins, a daughter in middle school, a full-time job teaching nursing at Wayne State University, a husband, a house, a very full life, and yet I chose to take on the primary caregiving of my mother. Just as importantly, a geriatric care manager should be a member of the National Association of Professional Geriatric Care Managers. This is our professional organization. It sets standards for membership and for practice. A professional geriatric care manager should be licensed as a nurse or social worker in the state. They should have at least a bachelor's or a master's or higher level degree. They should have been supervised as a professional geriatric care manager over 2 years before starting to practice independently, and they should be certified as a case manager.
Well, thank you so much, Diane. I think our viewers now know what a professional geriatric care manager is. Stay with us. Well, welcome back. We're with Janice Roble and Diane Hischke, both geriatric care managers, and we're talking about the holidays and easing the stress that seniors might feel during those days. So ladies, we had a good conversation before the break. I want to ask you about maybe some more difficult issues that come up. For instance, small kids and noise and merriment. Can there be too much holiday cheer in a senior's house or in their room?
Yeah. From a personal standpoint, we had great grandma at my house for Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And after about, just barely after the meal was served and before dessert, great grandma's got her walker ready to leave. And it was too much for her. And so we ended up finding a quiet corner she could sit in, put a photo album in front of her, had one of the great grandchildren sitting with her. So she was removed from it and was content to be in her own space there. For a lot of seniors, it's overwhelming. A lot of seniors have a routine that they stick with. They get up in the morning, have their meal, very quiet, just getting out of the house, getting in a coat, the change in environment, going outside, driving for maybe a half hour or more to get to somebody's house. It's a lot and it's tiring. And so some people might set aside a room where grandma can take or grandpa can take a nap.
I like that idea.
And it's a lot. It's a change in the routine. It's different food that they're having. They're seeing people they haven't seen in a long time that may want to spend a little bit of time with them. They may not remember who the people are that are coming to them. It's a lot to handle.
So if I'm a host, I want to take a look at, maybe do some investigation myself of what the regular routine for that senior is, and try not to stress them or tax them too much. What about, but they don't want to miss everything, and they stick around. What is it doing to a senior when they're amidst all of that excitement and noise?
Yeah, it can cause them to have some confusion and anxiety. We work with a lot of families where the elderly loved one has some dementia, and it's even more difficult for someone with dementia to be in a very stimulating environment where it's hard for them to interpret, who's talking.
Well, it's a good point. There are usually so many conversations going around a living room or a dinner table that does it raise a point of where you place grandma or great grandma at the table?
Absolutely. Having a seat for her at the end of the table rather than in the middle with so many other people around her could make a difference. Vision and hearing loss is very common as you age, and that's another thing to know about your elderly loved one. Do they hear better out of the right ear than the left? If so, that's the side that you want to be talking with them on. So thinking about those sensory changes are important too.
What about all those joyful little kids that are running all around the family room or the living room with their red pop stains and their shirts out? Can it be too much for grandma and grandpa?
Yeah, absolutely, it can be. I mean, many older folks, love children, but it can be too much of a good thing, too many and for too long. So if you can, arrange some time with, say, grandma, with the great-grandson, just the two of them, or maybe an adult and the two of them together, that is likely to be so much more enjoyable than him or her just sitting in the living room and watching the kids, run round and round.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine a lot of activities too. With bigger families, the gift exchange can probably last forever and a day. That same thing as far as that you were talking about, Probably great-grandma, if there was a big gift exchange, would have absented herself from that for a bit.
Yeah, it gets to be just too much. Like I mentioned, they're into a routine, and it takes them out of their typical environment. When the little kids are running around, they do want to see them, but not for several hours. It just gets to be too much.
So can other family members, do they kind of overcompensate for, they wouldn't do this, would they? They haven't seen grandma or grandpa for 6 months, and they have them over, and they want to fill up their plate, and they want to make sure they have their special drink, and they want all the grandkids around. People wouldn't do that, would they?
Oh, that happens, yeah, yeah. And, the intent is good, but again, they're not thinking about how that experience is actually going to be, for their elderly loved one.
Mm-hmm. What about alcohol and medications and food and medications at the family functions? What responsibility, say, does the host have to look at or know about grandma or grandpa's medication schedule and things of that sort?
Well, if you do know they're not supposed to be having alcohol with their medications, obviously you're not going to give it to them, although they may want it, and that may become an issue. Or you may fill up some wine for them if that's okay to have that if they're not on medication. Although it's hard to find a senior that isn't on many medications, right. But just to be careful of what they're taking, whether it's alcohol or food, just to know what they're comfortable with and what, like I was mentioning before, if somebody's diabetic, what they need to have and what they shouldn't be having. There's so many sweets at the holiday times. If somebody needs to keep control of their sugar, then that's an issue to keep track of.
You mentioned as far as gifts earlier, and sometimes the grandparents get more gifts than anybody, but yet they're kind of hard to buy for. And I'd like to take a couple of minutes and talk about those hard to buy for people, or if they're in a facility. Are there good gifts to buy a senior, or good things to do in replacement for gifts? What do you suggest?
Janice? Great gift. A great gift for a senior who's living alone. And a lot of people don't think of this as a lifeline. One of the people call them the I've fallen and I can't get up necklaces. Right. Usually grandma doesn't need another sweater or another robe or another pair of slippers. And a lot of times I'll say to family members, if there's a few of you kids, why don't each of you take a month? Because a lot of the lifelines are a monthly type of fee. Some of them aren't, though. And then if grandma's by herself or mom or dad are by themselves, if they fall, anything happens, they have trouble breathing, anything, they know they can get help right away. I love that present. Another thing, anything consumable, things like candy if they're not diabetic, or nuts, things that have a long shelf life that they can use up.
Do you want to get them the biggest platter? I mean, they are grandma and grandpa. Do you want to get them the biggest platter possible?
Depends if they have a lot of friends in their facility. But things like that, the pictures, fabulous gift. Where whether they're in a picture frame or not, or photo albums, and put a few photos in of the recent pictures of family from what vacation or not, whatever, so that they can see what's going on, so they feel a part of things.
Those are good ideas. Diane, your top gift ideas.
Oh gosh, I love movies, old movies or movies that you think they would enjoy, books.
Johnny Carson CDs.
Yeah, TV recordings, good books, those are the kinds of things that many of us don't buy for ourselves, but they now have the time, hopefully, to enjoy those.
Mm-hmm. And what about involving as far as the generations with stories? How can smaller children, how can you encourage them to give appropriate gifts? What thoughts do you have in that regard?
Yeah, I actually am a grandmother, and so I'm beginning to get gifts from my grandchildren, but things like calendars, with their pictures on them, or books that they've made, of their drawings or pictures of them, anything personalized like that, I think, is really appreciated.
And then maybe 20 and 30-year-olds, they could get them a gift card to their favorite restaurant, or gift certificates to some particular store that they know that they go to.
And there's also coffee mugs with the kids' faces on it. But kind of an important topic to bring up along this line would be the senior giving gifts back. It makes, for many seniors who are on a fixed income, the holidays, it's so stressful knowing I'm on a fixed income and I have these 10 grandchildren I want to buy gifts for, and it's a very financially stressful time for seniors.
You know, we're going to have to come back for another show, so I have to have you come back because we're all out of time today. I have a special surprise for you because it wouldn't be the holidays without special surprises, so stick with us. Well, it wouldn't be the holidays without music, and today we have wonderful music, compliments of Mrs. Rachel Creech and the Marian Melodies. Thank you for coming, and take it away, Maestro.
Cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, holy bells, ring on the sound, merrily dance, dance now. Gaily ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Day merry, merry, merry Christmas. Day merry, merry, merry Christmas. Dawn on this end, dawn without end. Day joyful tone to every home. Dawn on the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong, that is their song with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, holy bells, ring on the sound, gaily dance, dance now. Gaily ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Day merry, merry, merry Christmas. Day merry, merry, merry Christmas. Dawn on this end, dawn without end. Day joyful tone to every home. Dawn on this end, dawn without end. Their joyful tone to every home. Ding dong, ding dong.
Well, that was wonderful, ladies. Thank you so much. This is the Marian Melodies bringing you that holiday music from all of us at Graceful Aging, from our wonderful guests today, from Mrs. Rachel Creech and her Marian Melodies. Happy holidays. Ladies,
happy holidays! Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong, that is their song with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from